apps and integration page.
All right. Rockin'. Okay, so first day for doing the Discover Meteor book, and as I was going flipping through it, I added a couple more chapters because I was like, oh, we'll fly through this stuff. So we'll see how that is, but I think we can probably get this done in 3 weeks. Take a big chunk
it's a quick read.
next week, and then the other one. Yeah, it's a big read, get a good feedback, and then decide where we want to go from there.
Sure.
All right, so I think we'll just do for today is I'll just kind of follow along with the book, and then we'll just kind of like dive into other areas when we get to what we think might be a little more interesting.
Sure.
We're going to assume that there's plenty of basic hello world stuff, and also I don't want to show that like just follow the book exactly because this book is pretty much a guide, like straightforward step by step. And if we just follow the book and put it live, I feel like an ethical obligation that we sort of like stole from them. This is their content and they did a good job. They deserve your money. It's $35. Well, expensive, I think it's worth it because it saves you a lot of time. And by the end of it, you will have been introduced to Meteor and then can go off from there and decide what you want to do. Especially if you're doing that spike for a company, they're like, hey, we've heard of Meteor. Maybe, we might explore making apps on it. You pick up this book, you go through it, and at the end, you could be able to give a presentation and discuss whether it's good and bad and where to go from there. So we're going to use Meteorite. We're going to do create, and we'll just, what do you want to call it? We'll just call this book club. Oh, come on. I thought I had Meteorite create. Did I not install this? If not, npm
Give a lesson in installation.
Yeah, I didn't do it because I was like, I think I already have it installed. I run it all the time. I wonder if we did Node during when we were doing the Node.js in action, and maybe I lost some of my stuffs. That could be possible. Create book club. All right, we'll pull up our text editor.
Still using Atom? Let's see.
Yeah. Started MongoDB, and I was hoping, we can dive into a little more Mongo stuff.
Oh, I know all sorts of things about Mongo now. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping some of our ventures will be into.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we did. All right, so we have our app. Let's pull up just a little app page over here so we can see that, hey, it works. There we go. So we have our hello world. And I'll pull this back a little bit so that we have 3 little windows going on. And what it's doing is pulling in from this HTML. So if we update this HTML, let's say, hello, Houston Book Club. And we save it, it will automatically update. Super cool. Whee! All right, we're done for the day. We're going to go off and do other things. No.
It is awesome.
Deployed.
Yeah. So the Meteorite, so we have a branch here we can decide whether we follow and just copy some of their code and keep their styling, or we just follow some of the code and do our own styling with Bootstrap 3. I would kind of label for Bootstrap 3 because
Bootstrap 3.
we're going to go off the rails anyway.
Yeah, Bootstrap will just make it easier anyways. No need to write CSS.
And it's a little more realistic.
Sure. Yep.
All right, so I'm going to show here that you can find Meteorite packages if you go to Atmosphere.js. So then we could explore here and we can say we want to look for a Bootstrap. Oh, look at all the million pack things. So we want Bootstrap 3. So then it shows us what we want.
How do you know if that's the official one?
You can see downloads. Popular is official, right?
Yeah, I think they sort by downloads and all that stuff. And if anything, yeah, they have their GitHub link right there. I'm sure you could check their stars or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think there is an official thing for most of these. I can see
they used to do a lot.
Social team.
They used to Meteors have a lot more official packages, but I even noticed like some of the official packages have been moved out more into this structure because I think they're sort of embracing and encouraging open sourceness.
Well, the book mentioned like 5 different package types, and there was one that were smart packages and one that were atmosphere packages.
Let's see.
Have those been moved?
I think they're leaning
No,
towards.
they're still smart packages. That you can still do that. So if you go to type in Meteor lists, it will give you the list of the official packages and stuff.
And those are by Meteor, by the company.
From what I understand, yeah, or at least heavily endorsed by them. But some of them they used to have like some of these used to be inside here are removed. Like SAS used to be a package, but they removed it out. So, all right. So hey, we're starting Bootstrap 3 and it's failing. So let's see what's going on. Oh, never mind. Hey, we're there. And just to test to see that it works, let's give ourselves a little bit of a Bootstrap 3 funness. And we'll give ourselves a row.
God, that mystery site is crazy, man.
All right. And see there, it got set up like that, and we'll do a little. Yay, it works. And so we see enough confirmation between the font changes and the layout and all stuff like that. Confirmation Bootstrap 3 is all loaded and happy. All right, we're done for style, and we don't need a designer, so let's go on. So we go there. They have their own CSS thing. We don't need to do that. All right, so let's take a look at templates. So templates they use, template engine is handlebars. So that's one thing that's kind of weak for me. That I'm not really. I've used handlebars before, but I wouldn't say that I'm a veteran. So sometimes I pester Ember people because I know they use it. So I'd be like, how do I do this?
I'll help you.
Yeah. So that's always my headache, and I always have to go through it. I think the main thing, like I'm just going through, so we're looking at chapter 3 talking about templates. I think the main thing that they discuss here that I think is good is the idea that you add some good folder structures, which I think is good. Client. So all the JavaScript files in the client folder are only going to be running on the client. Server. So all the JavaScript files in server are only going to be run on the server, which is helpful and important because this JavaScript files are going to be on both sides, and sometimes you don't want things.
Don't forget libs.
Yeah. So they add lib folder, right?
Yeah. That one's accessible from both sides?
Yes. I
Yeah.
think so. And these are also, just to mention, like, I think we all know, but they're defined by Meteor that they automatically do that. Like
Okay,
these
so it's
names
a
matter
convention.
that they're picked there.
Yeah. I think libs are loaded first. I think that's what that convention is.
So if it's in like a parent directory outside of the client and server, does it still get loaded?
Yeah.
Where does
like if you put it, you can put all your JavaScript files in the root folder and it'd still be loaded on both of them.
Okay.
It's just by convention. And also, I'm pretty sure, at least they used to, I think you could specify the JavaScript file specific. Like here, let's see here, like is client. You could do it outside of those folders. Folders are just convention.
Yeah. Okay. So you can force it to be on the client.
Yeah.
I mean, not if it's in the like server folder though. Like what I was saying is like the server. If you call the folder server, it's going to only run on the server.
I think
like it handles that automatically.
I bet it wraps this stuff inside here. So like if you put this
it might.
code in the server, it will run, but this code will never get run because its client's never true.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
Exactly.
Because they minify all of that stuff. So they must be pulling like a subset of the files available and then minifying it and sending it down to the client.
Well, I think what JB was saying is like they'll take everything in the server folder and like minify and concatenate it and then wrap that in an if meteor.isServer, like in the minified version. Does that make sense?
That would be like a security problem.
I don't know.
I don't think they would do that.
I don't know how they do it. I mean,
Yeah, magic. I don't know.
pretty much. A lot of it's magic.
No, that's not a.
I mean, that can't be it. Yeah, you're right. That's definitely not it either.
That's a terrible idea.
They do something. Little gnomes come in and they make sure it's only run on the server. At the end.
Step 1, put your files in the server folder. Step 3, run it.
So their thing, they have this client /view/post and post list. I'm just gonna make a little file here. I'm gonna call this post. Keep it simple.
Yeah, that's one of the things they talk about too. I think in the templates chapter, just and one of them is just Meteor is really good at like finding files is how they word it, which pretty much means you can put things anywhere and it will read it, which I mean is cool sometimes. It's also like kind of like where are files? Yeah, that's I think I was mentioned that last week. Like things can kind of just be anywhere and you don't know. And like there's this template.postlist, like that could be overridden somewhere else, and I mean you wouldn't really know because you always can access that template object. So just want to point that out.
Yeah, so actually I'm going to move it. So one thing I've dabbled in too is that, like say, you can have client, and I would have something you can call, what's called, let's keep it post list. Let's just keep it post list. You can make a folder and call it post list. And then what I've been doing is I add a file here, and I call this post list HTML. And then I add the JavaScript files out here, post list.js. So this guy actually.
You know, come to think of it, it's probably not that they are good at finding things. They just minify everything together before they run it. So you can find things by just stuffing everything in one place.
Sure.
It's my my one big box theory of organization.
Yeah. You can put it anywhere. I'm just going to smash it all together anyway.
Man, one thing I wish Meteor would do, and I don't know if it's on their track to do, is to get rid of the template tags and like have some sort of naming convention where it would automatically wrap it. Because to me, it's kind of annoying that in every file you have to do this template tag thing. And while in some cases it's useful because you can find multiple ones in a file, I feel like most of the time it's kind of more of a burden than like helpful. Because even like post item, like you could put that in the post list.html and it would be just fine with that. Like it does not care at all what the file is called or the folder it's in. And that's because it just, like you said, puts it all together. But it's like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. You always have to wrap it.
I like the idea of the template tag because you can put more than one in a file. It's no longer you have 20 different files, each for the individual little partial templates. You have like one file or two files, and you can organize it better.
You can, but then you have the question of like, oh, which one is this in? Like, I mean, you could do a search for within the files to find it, perhaps, like if you know the template name, but like you can't find it by looking at the file tree, right? You have to use some within the file search, which is fine.
That gets down to organization, though. It's like, how are you organizing things? If you're organizing a one-way, as long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, just I don't know. I'm like I said,
this
comes from
does not use a text editor that cannot search in files.
I would say with the hesitation with Adam right now. Right now, my searching through files in a project has gotten mixed results.
All right.
So that's a search, and I'm like, dude, this file's totally here. I know it's here.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. It's part of this is just coming from my current, I guess, obsession with Ember and the fact that, well, with Ember and the certain build tools and such, like the file names matter. Like you have to call it a certain thing, and you have to do it, which makes it really nice at some points for looking at it. But I mean, I can see the argument that it's also nice for at times to put them like nested in the same file. I just feel like it'd be nice if there was like a mixture of those two. Like if you named a certain way, it'll automatically wrap it. But if you happen to include a template tag, like it won't do it, and it'll use those.
Yeah.
Like some kind of like in between.
Yeah, the extension of the idea that you can wrap it in his client or his server, or you can just put things in these folders, and we would do it for you.
Yeah,
I think one way or the other. One way or the other. If you do both, you're going to get a massive like organization nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, worse than it already is because you can put the files anywhere.
Correct. Okay, so as I was jumping through and putting in there so we can review this stuff, post lists, I referenced post lists in my main like layout thing by just using the little munchy arrow thing or whatever, the greater than sign, and pointing to the name.
Thing do again?
I don't know. It looks up for the template name. It's a partial. That's a good thing. Okay. So it's sort of different in like I'd say in other frameworks and so forth that like the view or the template name has a lot more of a primary sort of citizen than some of these other frameworks or whatever. So like post list will then be called here because it calls the name, and how do I know what post R that goes into my little helper, or what they call it, a manager, or like
No,
they're
it's a
calling
where
it
all
a
the
template
JavaScript
manager.
goes.
controller.
Yeah, the place
Yeah,
where I
not
put
a
all my
controller.
JavaScript code.
Hey, the book calls it a controller. I'm gonna go by the book.
No, it doesn't.
The
Mm-mm.
book calls it a
Has a whole
controller.
it has a whole section where it says some people call it a controller, some people call it that place where I put my JavaScript code, and then they list out that extension like TW whatever. Like that was too long, so we just decided to call it a manager for the book.
And that's why it's called dot managers.
Yeah, they call it the
I was like, all right,
manager.
whatever.
The book.
So
Yeah.
I kind of view this. To me, I call this like in my head. I consider it my view code behind.
Yeah.
Like this is sort of where I put my JavaScript. Anyway, so
Wait, the code behind thing, that was like a front-end controller pattern or something. It was
Yeah.
actually a pattern.
yeah,
It
you guys.
involved a controller.
I'm sure we dive in, you can find some sort of pattern to fit this, but I think it's a little more off the cuff in terms of like where it fits what and so forth. But anyway, I think one thing to show is that, hey, we had this domain here. Where does domain come from? It's coming from this function.
And it's a
that we're-
function instead of like an actual value.
Yeah.
That threw me for a loop. the
It's
first
actually,
time I saw it.
yeah, that's actually really cool how they do that. I mean, it's the same thing. I'm going to bring up Ember throughout this entire book. But it's the same thing as
Are
Ember.
you
Ember has
tempting
these,
Ember?
these computed, they call them computed properties, right? So you define a function and then you treat it as a property in your template. The same exact way this does, except with this one, you don't have to put the parentheses on the end, which I guess may be good or may be bad. I don't really know. But like you said, that kind of confused you. I mean, Ember separates that out, but it's the same concept, which is actually super useful to be able to do that. Like in Angular, you have to put the parentheses and stuff.
The concept is great. The concept itself is great. I'm just saying the syntax itself confused me the first time going through because I didn't know it was a function. And I didn't know where domain was coming from until they finally laid out, and I had to go back and forth a few times to figure out,
Yeah.
Mine is more of like,
sense.
why am I creating a link element? And then I was like,
Yeah.
hey, that's kind of like
And
a little
then-
hack.
and then trying
Nice.
to jump through the hoops of figuring out what this is and being like, okay.
That is one thing that actually is tricky. They put a highlight there, but I think it's important to recognize that like it has to do, I guess, with handlebars type stuff. Like, it's so used to me, I'm not used to having like this being like the object that you're working on.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's kinda weird.
that's
It
great.
is a handlebars thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great. But you have to remember these are two separate files, so if you're coming into this and you just find the helpers manager controller file, and you're like, oh, what's this? And literally you don't know what this is because you have to go look through the view to find out where it's called.
It is. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard because you're like, I don't know what this is. Is this the right thing? Sometimes when I was playing around with it, I have to be like, is this the right thing? Which isn't that big of a deal
No,
here,
it's not.
but once you get to the routing and stuff, it gets more because it's trying to get like, okay, well, how do I do this?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of that could be alleviated with like proper conventions and sorts. Like this is called post item, so you could assume that you're dealing with an individual post, but that comes from conventions, which obviously, as we see, Meteor doesn't define these. So you have to, if you're, I think, going to use this in any sort of project, you have to either like define these up front, how you're going to name things, or I don't know, just go for it, I guess, and see. It depends if you're working in a team or not, but in general, yeah, you're going to have some sort of naming convention for these that actually explains, at least gives you an idea.
Does handlebars allow you to give property attributes, not attributes, arguments to that computed property?
No, not well.
Nah, well, I think
I
you
don't
can
know,
create some
actually.
sort of separate helper, but not like in this. Well, let's this is when we do. We find out. Let's do a little experiment.
We're
Yeah.
going off the track, but
Going off the grass track. Let's see. Okay, if we did A, B, C.
Yeah, I can tell you in Ember, it will. They're not going to let you pass an arguments because you base it off like the model or whatever. But I don't know about it in here. What it'll let you do.
All right.
Ember
So
also
it's
uses
a-
like a
it's a
subset of
convention.
handlebars.
that's a convention in Ember.
Yeah, computer properties, like they get rid of this kind of what's in the template, what's in the controller, and the routing kind of thing that you're talking about, where it's confused where to go. Like it all comes off the controller. Like your computer properties actually can be defined in a couple places, But in general, you're gonna know like where they're at. I guess it's hard to explain without getting deep into Ember, but
So it's
pretty
like
much
a view model?
you know when you define your computed property, you also define what properties it depends on. So you say it depends on this other attribute to calculate this thing, and it kind of keeps it up to date. Like this does it through some other magic behind the scenes, pretty much, to keep it up to date. But in Ember, you say, like, you explicitly say, I want to update this property when this value changes or this value changes. That makes sense. So you say, I'm pretty much observing these two files or these two properties or however many, and recalculate when these change.
So it's not an actual function. It's sort of an Ember syntax.
Yeah, it's an Ember specific thing.
Okay.
Also, JB, that's definitely Ember or handlebars will not let you put parentheses and stuff in there.
Yeah, that's why I'm always trying to do that.
Yeah, I saw those errors
yell at you, and
you
I'm
made,
like, and then I start dragging it. I was like, oh yeah, they like the little spaces.
Handlebars by itself is super, super simple. Like, it won't let you do. I mean, it'll let you, I don't know. Is that working for you here?
Yeah. So if you take a look at this, I pass in two parameters, a string and then a number, and my little function is returning. C is just the last bit is just sort of the catch-all hash of other things I can put in there, I guess.
Huh.
So is it just spaces or commas?
It's spaces. So like here I have fun, space, good time, space 300. I couldn't find this. I bet there is a handlebars thing for this somewhere maybe. Or like what if I said title? Like what would it use this dot title, or is it going to yell at me?
It should.
Nope, it did. It used the title.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
it should. It takes the context. Like, you're inside of an each right now, which is kind of hidden from you here. But when you're in an each, this gets set to the current thing you're on in the each. You can also, when you define your each kind of, I guess, block, you could call it, you can say each x in y's or whatever and give it a name. So you could say, like, x dot title or whatever there, if you were to do that. I don't know.
Do you remember the syntax?
Support that. Yeah.
So post, and what would I say?
Post in post, spaced out.
So post in post.
Or post in posts, yeah.
All right. And so here I could say then.
You do like.
Okay. So now it's blank because I have to do something like post.title.
Yeah, and post.url and all that.
Or maybe it hates me.
Unless you have to somehow. You have, I mean, some other stuff like URL there. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't look like anything was blowing up, but because you think it'd just be nil.
Maybe it's not all of hiccup, or not hiccup, handlebars.
Yeah, it might be some subset, or I don't know if you can pass in things to the partials or what.
I don't know. I'm trying.
I don't know.
I was like, we're off the rails. I'm just trying things out. I bet it is. I bet we just didn't have. We're not telling it the right things. I think I've seen something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can in just raw handlebars, and like Ember lets you do it and stuff. So I don't know. They may take that out or something because it could be a little confusing as to what that's called within this other like partial. I mean, but maybe not.
That, and they still have to like deal with auto updating. So, like all of their templating has to deal with auto updating and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to add our collection. Let's use Mongo. So let's go to our post list, and instead of using this fake data, we can do post.find, right? And we should be good.
You got it.
Don't
Do you have to do that on a function? Or no?
I don't know. Let's find out.
I mean, you should have none. Those
post is not defined. Oh, wait, this is my thing. This is the Rails got you or gotcha. It was like I always do the singular, and the Meteor convention is the plural. So the post is not defined. Okay, let's see what's going on. So I did post. Meteor, let's stop and start it for whatever reason. Maybe it did not like. Okay, so maybe we do need to wrap it in functions, because maybe at that time it's not defined.
Sure. That makes sense.
Let's do that. All right, now the little red warnings. And now we have our posts here, and we can insert Right, that should know off the top of my head. Hey.
So I think I mentioned this as well last week, but I thought was an odd kind of pattern they do, and the reason we were just having issues with like the posts things and stuff is that they don't, I guess, highlight it really in the book, but like when you do that collections posts and they say like don't use var here because you want it to be this like global variable you can access anywhere, and you get the same thing in like the JavaScript console. Like you get your global window object like clobbered with all of these different objects, I guess. So any collections you make, you can just access in the console like that. And it's just all directly on the window object, and that's how you manage like various dependencies, and I guess you just hope it was never changed at some point. But it's just it's an odd thing, right? I think.
Yeah, like it definitely. When I'm dabbling with it, I like it, but it's definitely like running with scissors with a lot of stuff. Like
it could be really useful. Yeah, but
I can see how someone working on a project could screw up a lot of stuff accidentally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're working on a team, I mean, one thing, you could easily override one of those variables and never know it. Like, I guess I just thought of that as like a downside of the whole global object thing. Because you would never know. You would just, post equals this, and you'd have no idea you're blasting out the one defined in the collection.
True.
Actually, what happens? What happens when that, like, JB, go to the JavaScript
Set it to like an empty object.
Okay. Just do it.
Okay.
Wait, like, so what we're going to do is, on what? Where do you want me to do this?
So in the JavaScript console, in the web browser.
Okay. Just say post is equal to that?
2. Just set it to equal to 2.
2. Okay. Now, if we really want to mess this up, we need to have like actions and buttons, which we haven't gotten into, so that we can then say, hey, let's add something to post. And it goes, hey, 2 does not have the button method inserted.
Well, wait, no, you can do fetch right now. You should be, like, it's got the auto-publish, so you should be able to do, like, find.
Yeah, if we define, like, it's going to be, like, undefined.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it shouldn't say. Yeah, so, like that, right? You completely just destroy your app.
But that's the client side.
You could do that on your server, too. So if you happen to run something prior or after that was defined, like on your client side, say somewhere in a function in your helper, you say like post, like he could try this too, like in that fun function, you could say posts equals 2, right? And then if you ever after that on a button click or something like that, try and use post, you're going to get this undefined method thing. I don't know. I mean, we might have to do some buttons to really do that. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Well, it is kind of unique because they were doing post equal 2. It does run the fun after the fact, so it probably pulls it down. Oh, and because it is going to do it after the fact because post items calls it first, and then.
If you run post in the console now, is it 2? I'm curious. In your JavaScript one. Yeah. Yeah. So if we had some other pages and went around after the fact, this would now be 2, and those methods would no longer exist.
So if I were able to inject some kind of JavaScript.
Yes, you could totally mess them up. But it's just like Ruby is like, you mean I can overwrite like the add, the plus on double? Yes.
Yeah.
If you did metaprogram and monkey patch, float arithmetic operation, you're gonna have a bad time.
I mean, the difference between that is you kind of explicitly do it though, versus I guess it's similar. I guess you wouldn't really know if somebody else had already done it, so it's similar in that case, yeah. But
well, I mean, also like you have active record, and you could just totally like change what active record does.
Yeah, it's all of the dynamic languages.
Yeah,
you're running with scissors.
Yeah. All right, so what we're gonna do here, just kind of showcase some of the other things you can do, is that we had our fake data here, but they added like a little fixture that they could load. And one of the things you can do is you can clear out the database by saying Meteor reset. So we'll reset the database, call that, and then it'll run that fixture, because a fixture is just running the JavaScript file, and it's not like a fancy fixture or whatever. It's just saying, hey, if it's 0, I'm going to create some things.
Is that in the lib folder? Which folder is that in?
Yeah, they put it in the server folder.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they said they did that because they want it to run before other things or something like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, and also it is important to know, like sometimes like your views are a little bit smarter, so like they will call find, but find returns a cursor, so really to get the array you need to call fetch, but the views are smart enough to figure that out. But like if you're trying to do things on your own on the back end or some stuff, like that's you need to call fetch, so you can chain all your stuff together and say go get it.
Sure.
All right, let's turn off auto publish. So right now we have all the publishing just happening auto magically, but that isn't necessarily a good thing, so we want to turn it off. So we can say Meteor remove auto publish. And Meteor remove auto publish works because auto publish is one of the little add-ins here, right?
Yeah,
smart things.
It's a smart package.
Yeah. So all we're saying is, hey, remove that. And so now notice it's blank. So because we need to, because now it's like, okay, I'm not telling you anything until you subscribe to this stuff. So
Did it send? Oh no, you didn't have the network tab open.
What
I
happens
wondered if it sent like a clear message or if it reloaded the entire thing.
I'm actually curious, before you do the publication, if you just do post.find.fetch, what does it return? Just like an empty array? If you do it like in the console of the browser?
It should.
yeah, it just returns
Yeah,
empty.
I guess it would just be an empty array. Okay, cool.
Wait. So posts exist.
Yep.
Yes.
But you can't access any of the documents
Right, but
until you publish them.
did you
and subscribe.
did you publish posts? Because I thought
Not yet.
after the auto publish was turned off, you had to manually publish things. And
Yes. So the collection is there, but like I was showing, it's empty. Like from a client perspective, there's nothing there, even though
Okay,
server side there is there.
so you're publishing like a service that contains different entity type things. So it's like you could in that return a collection of posts and something else.
No, it has. Well, I don't know what would happen if you return something that wasn't posts.
Well,
That'd be
first get this,
interesting.
and then we'll do that. So I have a publication now. I'm saying, hey, publish this, and now on the client side, we need to have where we subscribe to it. So I have
Yes.
subscriptions. So now we have them. So let's do the little experiment. We're going to add a collection here, and we're going to call this memes. Because we're going to post
Collections?
memes.
Wait. Collections? Is collections a convention? One of those folders with a convention?
I don't know.
I don't know if it's loaded convention. It's just a place to put your stuff in there.
Well,
You
no,
don't even have to do it. I was even
I'm
fine
saying-
where I put them all the one together.
I'm saying because if it's loaded on both, that would explain why the posts existed.
Yes, it's loaded on both. But also notice here, like I'm thinking the string's gonna be magical for us.
The collection
anyway.
name?
Yeah, this collection of string memes, because that's what we're probably gonna subscribe to and listen to and so forth.
I'll call it memes 2.
Why do you want to call it memes too?
So it's not the same.
As what? Oh, as the name of this thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same. Let's add a number at the end. All right, so we have memes
Debugging.
too, and we have memes here. Let's create our little or add our own little folder here so that we can see that they show up. Memes list. We'll just kind of follow that convention, even though it's kind of silly. We'll just do memes list.html. Why do we want to call them memes?
Throw it all in a single file.
Yeah,
Be a
rather
little
just do-
easier. Just throw it all.
That
in
is true. We
memes
could just put it
file.
all in the memes. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
do that. Just show that, hey, we can just be a rebel.
Put it all in one thing.
Yeah, we're going to be like, all right, let's look at our little helper here. Memes list helper. We'll get our memes.find. Inside here, we'll have template name memes list. And all right, so this is when we get to my handlebars, and up to I think it's each memes, and like send something
slash each. Like
Slash
forward
each.
slash each. Yeah.
There we go.
And memes is just like the name of the variable you're iterating. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, it can be whatever. So we're up here called title. And then we'll go from there. It can be whatever. Okay, and now let's go back to our little layout thing at the very beginning, and we'll put it right below the hello. Oh, that we call memes list. All right, so we got something blowing up. So what's blowing up? Template is not. Whoop. Template is not defined.
Memes list.
Memes list. I thought I
Give the
made it.
template a name.
Memes list. Memes list. Oh, maybe this is loaded. Like, so maybe it is loaded before because it's looking. So you know, it's in this collection memes. It's saying, hey, this thing isn't defined yet. So maybe collections are loaded before the other ones.
What do you mean?
Because it's looking for the template memes list, but the views have not been loaded yet, or the HTML, so it doesn't know about that template. So if I move it out of here.
Well, I thought that helper was just an object. Does template look for it?
I don't think so. Like it adds that to the template. Okay, so now we have our memes.
Oh, so that was it, right?
Yeah.
It cares about that. Okay. I guess the template object wasn't right. What did the error say? Was it the template wasn't defined yet? Or something?
Yeah, the template wasn't defined yet. The error was saying template's not defined.
Okay.
Or even then, it looks like even it say template's not defined, so it even have the template.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah. That should be like it's a client side only thing. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess collections running on the client, but yeah, I guess it cares.
That's true. I get collections are run on clients. So you're basically saying if we wrap that code around Meteor.is client, we might have been okay.
We'll try that. I want to see it. Okay. That's interesting because if you combine all your templatings or all your, let's say, your memes list stuff into one file, then that's a valid organization scheme.
Well, you can't have your HTML and JavaScript in the same file, so.
Why not?
I mean, yes, you could.
Reasons.
But
reasons.
I know my text editor does not like that. It hates highlighting and stuff for that.
Yeah,
so.
you need a better text editor.
All right, so we have that. Now we need to subscribe to it. So
why, as a programmer, are you limited by your tools?
My tool's helping me to not do that ridiculous stuff. It's like, nope, not cool. Like, don't do that. It's gonna make it hard.
Okay, so our memes 2 thing. So it does the name of our collection. So let's clear it out so we have all these little open things let's focus on. So our little experiment of if we name this memes 2 and that's memes, we'll mess it up or do whatever. Let's even change this to foobar. So it's not showing there, but if we say, all, it still has there. But even then, like, hey, look, I'm doing foobar here. That doesn't seem like it, right? Because if it's foobar, why is that? Oh, maybe that's the name of the collection inside Mongo.
Yeah, in Mongo, it must be naming it that. Like, if you go to Mongo, you can type, if you pull up the Mongo shell, I can show you, you can tell to list the collections.
Yeah, so we can do Mongo, right? And let's open up the shell.
Meteor Mongo. Yeah.
All right, so what do we do?
Just type show collections. Enter. So something really cool about the Mongo shell is it's just I think it runs the V8 JavaScript interpreters. Like anything you do in JavaScript, you can do, and it also just gives you helpers like show collections, and you just type help, it'll tell you more. But it just runs JavaScript, so you can actually do like full JavaScript expressions just in the shell, which is something I don't think realize. I didn't know that when I first started playing with it.
There we go.
Yeah, so it's just a shell that you can do JavaScript in, which is pretty cool. for like if you do some like bulk insertion or something, if you're trying to do some, I guess, fixture data and you're doing it through the shell for some reason, you can just write like a for loop or whatever. It's kind of some neat stuff.
This is pretty cool, being able to jump immediately into the database to take a look at it, and you can run this on when you deploy it as well, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, you can, which is sweet.
Well,
Yeah,
that depends on where you deploy it, don't you? Don't you have restrictions on that? Like if you deploy it,
probably
deploy it on their hosting,
Yeah.
you have access to it.
Yeah, I mean, all hosts should give you some access to a Mongo instance, right? It's just a Mongo instance. But yeah, they make it really easy with their hosting, so you probably have to go through a couple extra things.
I think that's part of the strength for me. Like when you get to it, is like when you're getting to the point where their hosting solution is not necessarily the best solution for you, is when you start thinking about moving someplace else. At least that's why I think like the strong point of Meteor to me is the prototyping stuff. What Rails sort of still is in their wheelhouse, which is like, okay, we have a weekend to hack on something to, put something together, like get you something up really, really fast and get it working, and then after there you go, okay, now where we want to go and move and do. All right. So this is important. So the memes collection here, this string is associated with the name of the collection we're going to put in our Mongo database.
Yep.
And this string is associated to what we're subscribing to.
So it's a service.
Yeah.
So just call it like memes service, just to make it clear.
Well, what if we change? Okay, so how does it know? Like, what do we call this? Foobar or whatever. And
No,
we
it's going
subscribe
off the collection.
Oh, that's what. So it knows to update the memes collection by listening to this essential. So that okay. So there's magic associated with this thing, knowing which one's to listen to, which one's to publish.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So if I call this foobar, it's not memes at all, and I'm subscribed to foobar.
Oh, foobar 2. Oh, yeah.
I want something that's not even no memes associated with it whatsoever.
Didn't you insert some memes in foobar?
Mm-hmm. So I inserted, and it knew to update the list, publish and subscribe based on the collection I was listening to.
Yeah,
not the name
right
of
that function.
The event.
So it must be the cursor.
Yeah, I'm thinking like it has some magic.
It returns a cursor.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a little sense. Yeah, if it returns that cursor, they can check on stuff through that. I was wondering how they could like look into a function, but if it returns something they can work with, that makes a lot of sense.
Well,
That
then,
makes sense.
can you make a custom cursor? Like, can you combine two cursors?
What do you mean two cursors? Like I could change them, like
if
filter.
an
Like
array
foobar
of
doesn't have
cursors.
to.
Wait. Let me complete my thought. So let's make a new service that's called like something, and then return memes and posts combined into a single list or a single cursor.
I don't think that works.
I bet it does. I bet there's a way. It sounds
Well, I bet
like
you can
something that.
subscribe to it, but I bet you can you might get you can maybe get a function back on what you do with it, and this sort of by default it knows what to do. Maybe I don't know. It feels weird. Like okay, so I can subscribe to it, but what would what? Okay, so let's get rid of these subscriptions. We'll have a new subscription. We'll call this crazy. So we'll have these. And we'll call this crazy.
It's not that crazy.
Is cray cray. And we'll return memes.find. And you want to do a plus?
If you're returning a subset, maybe you want to do some combinatorial stuff, and you want to create a view model, and you want to return collections of view models instead of collections of unknown entities.
You can't like add
I'm not sure
arrays
like
in
that.
JavaScript, even if those were arrays. Like
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm
you
trying
don't
to figure out you're like combine them. Like, how am I combining? Like putting them in an object or?
you can
I don't know.
concat.
Is there a concat?
Maybe fetch.concat. Maybe.
Okay.
Because we're now dealing with a custom type. It's a cursor. You're not dealing with like a collection.
I wonder if if it's gonna.
I don't
Maybe
think
you
it's
have to return a cursor. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
if throw an error like having to return a cursor.
Like it's not
We're
return
about to
error. It's
find
just
out.
like you're just
That's
dumb.
an array.
Yeah, it's just saying you're dumb.
No. Wait, what's the web browser say? Okay,
It just
same
doesn't
thing.
work.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. All right, so let's go back to.
Well, wait.
Well, actually,
are you doing
you know-
anything with that? Are you
Did we
doing
learn?
anything with Crazy?
I did do anything. I was subscribing to Crazy, and Crazy wasn't doing anything. Because I think like it's not the name of this. Like this is what the name is, so you can time up, but it's the cursor you're getting back and what it knows to update.
It actually.
Yeah, but you didn't do any templating with it to actually do anything.
But even if you can't, there's no way to access it because you're not accessing it through the subscription name. You're accessing it through the model name. So because you're not returning a model, it's not going to have any idea what to do with that data,
Okay.
even
So
if it subscribes to it.
Can you make?
So in the end, you're accessing through the model. You're not accessing through the subscription.
Yeah, all your description is just it's letting it know when something has been updated and so forth. So instead of like here I'm listening to all the posts, but what if the only posts I should be listening to on the client side is are like published posts? Then it won't bother updating or doing a page refresh or doing that stuff unless there's a post that has published flag true has been updated. If that makes sense.
Kind of. Can you create custom models?
I
Do you
think
like
maybe
like computed models type of thing, or do they have to exist in Mongo? Because I assume the publishing mechanism is based on the Mongo streaming updates of some kind.
Or you want to just like a in-memory object that you want to like update on the server that gets like updated on the client? Is that kind of what you're saying? 'Cause that's the best I could think of like that.
Sort of like a view model type thing.
I would assume not because their implementation is built on like many Mongo and stuff in the browser, and that's where all of their data is kind of stored. So I doubt. Well, actually, there's stuff later in the book that actually you may be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is something that might be later when we get into doing some stuff. They have some.
Yeah, they have stuff.
Teaser.
I think later. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
right.
trying to remember.
I think it's like this auto run thing and stuff. So.
Yeah, it might be
You
under
actually can do
the
stuff like
advanced
that.
reactivity. I bet that's where a
Yeah,
lot of this
I think that's
that
it.
gets a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do stuff I think where you do probably something similar based with that. But I don't think through this mechanism.
So we did publish and subscribe. They kind of covered some of the stuff, and we kind of showed how we can limit what we're doing. I think we basically covered the stuff. We showed most of the things, and we jammed right through that. This is the beginning stuff anyway, and kind of explored stuff. And then, yeah, so like I said, we'll get done through this thing really fast. It's not that dense of a book, but it's it's very informative. Like, so what we did today, like really simple, fast. Like you can read that and not that long and code it, and the next thing you know, you're like, you have a Meteor app running, you're pulling in packages, you're pulling in Meteor app packages, you're binding to collections, you're doing beginning of the template stuff. That's a pretty good chunk for a Hello World.
Yeah, what is the book? 200 pages?
Yeah. So next week we'll go through chapters 5 through I think we'll do 10.5. So we get into the comments. So that's a pretty good chunk. That's 5 chapters. We have this one 4, and we'll see if that's too much or too little. Because I'm thinking towards the end, some of the stuff is a little. Actually, we'll cut it down instead of doing that. We'll go do up to 9.5.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's better.
Yeah, because the other ones, some of them are advanced, but so there's not a lot of content that you're going to be going through it. So then we'll get to comments and denormalization and stuff.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good.
Super fun, hacking away at stuff.
Man, y'all don't have the advanced or the special book, do you? I've got 17 and a half chapters on my book.
Yeah, you do, but if you take a look at the later chapters, they're extras.
Yeah, well, I had those. Well, I have all these screencasts and crap too, but I don't know.
How many chapters do you have?
On it. 17 and a half. And
Oh,
I've got my boss bought the expensive one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
it's
yes, you
like
have all the
it's
bells and whistles. I had the
sounds
I had
nice.
the $35. Okay, I'll give it a shot. And
yeah, he really liked it for some reason. Oh, they got an animation chapter, which apparently I think it said at the top was new, so that'd be pretty cool to see. That's real big right now.
They have their own animation framework.
I don't know. It's something I think.
no, it's about. But it's important when you get into the stuff. Like I've noticed when you have the live binding and stuff, like getting these things to animate is actually kind of tricky. Like because
Yeah,
the page is not reloading per se, and so some of the stuff is. And I've tried dealing with it. I brought in Animate CSS on one of my little media projects, and definitely want to read this chapter because it did not give me everything because it loads the page up all the time and stuff. So if I added one element side here, it would all the things would be animated again, not just the one I added.
sure.
But it could just because I'm not an expert in either of the categories, so I
I'm
just
not
like.
sure. Is that something you did recently, or was it a while? Was it like before Blaze? Because I think with Blaze, they're supposed to handle some of that, like not re-rendering everything, like kind of like React does, where they only render the stuff that needs to be changed.
Well, let's give it a shot. We got time.
I was curious. I mean, I don't know. It probably does, since they have a whole chapter, and it looks like a pretty in-depth chapter. Actually, just going through it real quick, and I just kind of scrolled through.
I think
They
with
get
the
some pretty
client.
crazy functions, but I think there's also the famous library that's getting real popular right now. I know Meteor has, I think, good support for that. The huge like animation thing, animation framework. I haven't looked at it with Meteor at all, but I know there's like I've seen a lot of it in the Meteor community about this famous thing, and I know they have a package for it and stuff on Atmosphere.
It links me feels like is a lot of the like the Starbelly Steeches or Sneeches or whatever. The idea that like the reason why they're doing it is that now with Twitter Bootstrap and other stuff, like getting some of the things to style layout is easy for laymen, but animating is hard
Yeah,
because it's like
yeah,
I don't know, what's have everything bounce in and stuff.
yeah. That's what all our designers want now. In
Yeah.
my company, and it's like, dang it, like now I gotta learn that.
Yeah. All right. So for our posts, well, let's do it for our little meme list. So our memes will have this class, and if I remember correctly, you say Oh, I'm looking it up now. It's animated, right? Maybe, and we say bounce in left.
And that's built in.
I thought maybe it's animated. Let's try it. Let's try it maybe without a list. Let's try and post item. Since that's a div, maybe it didn't like it. I'm probably doing it wrong. All right, let's go take a look. Let's view on GitHub and do the JB's an idiot. Let's see what you do on this thing. This is animated. Bounce out left, bounce in. All right, so let's take a look at this. Maybe hit the refresh. Nope. Inspect element. So it does look like animated. Like it did come in maybe or not. The bounce in left didn't.
Do they do source maps for CSS? Like if you were to
Uh,
click on that like CSS thing next to animated, would it actually take you to where it should go?
Oh, see, it's pulling. Yeah, so it's pulling
Yep.
in from Bootstrap CSS. So let's see.
Cool.
Actually, yeah. Let's see. Actually, if there's an animate CSS Bootstrap. I mean, a Meteor package, which probably not. Oh, never mind. Here he goes. It's like download a lot, and then it's like, and then it's terrible, so we shouldn't do it. All right, so we'll copy it. So I added it as a style sheet and I brought it in, and that didn't seem to go over very well. So we'll just dump that. I know I did it before though, and I thought maybe you have to put it in the lib folder or something. Exit, right? Or how do you do it from the console?
What? How do you do what?
Oh, they just type exit. The Mongo console.
Oh. I heard of animate.css. I gotta look that up. Seems super useful.
All right, so if we go to elements, I don't think I need to restart this thing, but I'll do it anyway.
Oh man, this animate CSS looks awesome.
Yeah, it can give you some really easy wins, but some of the client-side JavaScript stuff I've been using, it's kind of hard to do right. So this one doesn't look like if it's bounce in left. Maybe I'm a bit bouncing right, so bounce out left. I've gotten this to work before. There we go. So bounce in left. There we go. So bouncing. So now if we add, so we go to the console and we do post.insert title coolness. Okay, you're right. Maybe when they changed the templating engine, they fixed that craziness. Because it used to be then they all slide in and I was like, oh, that's crap.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I think that was one of the things they were talking about. Like, yeah, it's Blaze is their new templating engine thing. They rewrote everything so that they don't rear-end everything.
That makes that easy win now. Animate CSS.
Yeah, sweet. Man, I haven't tried that done, but I gotta try something like that. Let's see if that works. Very much.
So I go for cheap wins. That's a cheap win. And here, here's some other cheap wins of styling. Put our memes list inside there. Oh, they did not like that. Why didn't you like that?
It looks like it's there. Welcome to book club, isn't it?
Oh, because the screen. I'm so used to my screen being bigger. It's not medium.
Yeah, let's just swap the sides.
Yeah, let's go for small. There we go. I don't know if we made it better or worse. I vote worse. Whatever. Moving on.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of tired of Bootstrap sites because the way my screen layout works, like I'll just shift something to the right or left, and it'll be half the screen, which will be like just 50 pixels underneath that threshold between medium and small. So it'll turn small, and everything will be mobile size, and like I'll have to go full screen just to make anything look good. It's like I have a widescreen monitor. I want to use 2 columns.
Your monitor needs to be wider. Says the man with the cinema display. Yeah. I have no problem. Like, make my monitor bigger. All right, so cool. It was a lot of fun. We even did a little bit of animation. That's pretty cool. And they find the packages, put them in there. I've had pretty good success using the stuff from Atmosphere to find but in a way I feel like it's almost tied the same thing where it's like using gem files for assets, and on some way it's cool, in other ways it's not cool because you're sort of disconnected. I've kind of gone back and forth between liking it and not liking it. Same thing for Bower, where it's like, okay, I sort of like it, but then other times I'm like, it's just a CSS file. Like, I know exactly what I'm using when I'm bringing it into HTML regularly.
So downloading it versus installing it with a package manager.
Yeah.
Well, Bower actually downloads it, which is cool, as well as
that's the one thing I do like with that. At least I know a version.
Yeah, with gem files, they do not. I think at least there's a way you can edit it, but that's not important.
So what's this thing do? Returns an animate template from inside a helper placeholder. That's an example.
Maybe that has something to do with that.
It's got an 83 download. People are like reading it. I don't know what that is. I'm out. Alrighty. Well, that'll be it for today. And the next week we'll do what was it? We just said? We said chapters 5 through 9.5. Woohoo! All right, guys. Thanks for coming and having a great talk.